Okay, I'm sharing my screen now. Please confirm if it's visible
Yeah,
now.
it's visible.
All right, great.
This is
Okay, so still on organization securities, I'm just going like what our first speaker spoke about. I'm just going to be talking about a few documents which I think every organization should have cybersecurity documents, irrespective of the size of your organization. There are some kind of certain documents which is important for every organization. So I decided to make this presentation so we can make screenshot and say for those of us that have organizations, business corporations, be it startup or not, or we are planning to, I think, to be of help to. So I'll get right into it. Second slide, please. Information security policy, that's the first. An organization policy is a pillar of cybersecurity defense documentation. It contains the company's rules and the guidelines to ensure employees adhere to security protocol and procedures to minimize any security. This protocol may include safeguarding any corporate information, IT assets, security strategy, and other preventative measures. Let me just quickly explain more about this. Our first class spoke about espionage, if I'm not mistaken, when she talked about internal attackers, people coming into your company and stealing information from within. When there are information security policies like this, it helps you mitigate things like this, and it's be easy for you to take such cases where or take actions in a situation where an employee has defaulted in the lay down policies. Next slide. Business continuation plan. What's business continuation plan? It's simply known as BCP. It's the details of procedures and process an organization must take to continue operations in event of an emergency due to a wide and evolving range of threats. It varies, like which our speakers have spoken about, from personal and organization. Organization must regularly update these documents because the world of cybersecurity, there are things that go on every day. The more technology we have, the more cyber threats we have every day. It's something that, so it needs to be constantly updated. Each BCP is unique and must be coordinated with business objective. It simply means my company BCP may necessarily not work for your company based on the objective and the activities of our company are different. So everybody needs to narrow down the BCPs with the objectives of the company. Security measures and likely emergency. This way it can restore essential business operations, ensuring continuity and minimize damage. So when there are events of attack and stuff like that, by the time you have this continuity plan, it's not like a backup plan for your business when there are glitches or cyber attack. And then slide 4, please. Disaster recovery plan. Conjunction with business continuation plan, they describe the specific steps needed to resume business operation after an event, whether it's power outage, cyber attack, pandemic, natural disaster, or anything else. Disaster recovery plan includes response manager and protocol around testing, whether it involves drills or orchestrated tests. This also helps monitor and update information as business changes. It's critical that business update their disaster recovery plan and systematic basis. I hope this is clear. It's quite self-explanatory. But while I'm going on, if there is any section that we do not understand, we can easily drop our questions on the comment section, which we'll take in attended to after this. So next slide, please. Security awareness training. Now, every security awareness training exists because human error is responsible for many of the successful data breach. Security learning program or awareness training should teach employees to avoid attacks, targeted attacks like phishing. If you look at the statistics of cybersecurity attack, if I'm not mistaken, phishing is the highest form of cybersecurity breach. Why? Because most people do not have adequate knowledge on how to counter phishing attack. And what's phishing? Phishing simply means disguising as a known or trusted source, sending a link from a known or trusted source in order to convince the target to click such links, be it an SMS, be it an email, be it a video link, whatsoever. It's just disguising as a trusted source. So once the person goes there, you can start stealing information, depending on the kind of information that the attacker is planning to steal. So by the time you've created security awareness training in your organizations, it minimizes risks of situations like this. This training should occur regularly. As cybersecurity attack evolves, so must employees understand so must employee understanding of how to identify them. Training should also involve interactive learning to keep employees engaged. Like the first speaker spoke, she said from time to time, and every organization should have internal meeting between the administrator, the CEO. These meetings are very important. It's part of security training, awareness training. Can we go to the next slide, please? Incident and response policy. An incident response IR plan is similar to disaster recovery plan, and that it specifies the role and responsibility in the event of disruption. However, incident response plan focuses more on IT and security occurrence. If I would explain this better, but let me quickly read through. In an IR plan, it is a priority to reduce any damage caused by data breach. This includes the business operation, financial losses, or customer data. An IR plan also monitors and updates security information as the digital landscape evolves and cybersecurity become more frequent and advanced. Like the name sound, incident response plan. Once there is an incident, what are the response plan you have in place in order to mitigate these things, to ensure that these things have been solved quickly? Because an incident means you did not mitigate, so it has happened. Now, how do you intend to resolve? There should be plans down that have been documented for your organization on how to go about things like this, so it doesn't disrupt business flow and stuff like that. Next slide, please. Risk assessment and risk assessment standard and procedure. Risk assessment standard and procedure contains the process of identifying, analyzing, and evaluating any cyber risks. This type of documentation is critical for preventing data loss, avoiding data breaches, and saving money, meeting compliance, and gaining knowledge for future assessments. So most of these things are quite explanatory, but like I said, if you have any questions while I'm rushing through this, we could just put them in the comment section. So I would attend to them myself, and Mr. Wale can attend to your questions if there are any questions. Next one, please. Change management policies. The purpose of this policy is to manage changes in a well-communicated, planned, and predicted manner, and minimize unplanned outages and unplanned system issues. This document explains how any changes can avoid impacting business operation. Now, every organization should have management policies on how you manage it, but there should also be a document that would direct or guide the organization on how they change these policies from time to time. Because you cannot just change policies, it's an organization, so everything has been planned. By the time you just change policies without having change management policies on how those things go, they might disrupt operations. So that's why you also need to have a change management policies that help you go about how you handle things like that in a situation or in an event. You need to update your company policy. The next one. Next slide, please. Data backup policies. It's quite simple, as is, even without owning a company, everybody, individual that access the internet and use the technology, should have a backup plan. Data backup policy is an action plan that outlines the guidance in case of a data loss, deleted or corrupted file, or other cybersecurity events. This includes implementing strategies on how to restore important documents and how to resume business services after an emergency has occurred. It also details the type of backup needed to best serve your organization. And last but not the least, remote access policies. What is remote access policy? This policy includes information These policies include information about storing device securely or following bring your own device. Let me quickly explain this. After the COVID-19, after the COVID-19, 2020 to 2023 COVID-19, most organizations went on remote working. And now, if you don't have good remote access policies, it would have been very difficult or almost impossible to integrate from in-person working, in-person learning to remote access, remote learning, remote working and stuff like that. That's why you need a good remote access policy. Considering the fact that the world today, if you go online to look for jobs, most of the jobs you see are either hybrid, remote, or in-person, and majority of them today are hybrid. So most organizations are switching to hybrid working, which involves coming to work sometimes and doing it online. So if we don't have proper policies, it will be very difficult for you to implement stuff like that, and makes your company very, very prone to attack from external attackers. So it must also provide details information about unauthorized apps, which your company staffs are allowed to access the company server from. It should also provide the best practices on maintaining strong password. Both speakers are spoken on password, using multi-factor authentication, which they've spoken about, accessing third-party service, and following basic email security regulations, which has also been spoken about. Talking about details on which kind of device can be used. I think if we look at the US today, look at China, and not China, sorry, look at US, look at UK, they recently did something, they banned TikTok on official phones of officials. So if you're working in the government, you're not allowed to use TikTok, you're not allowed to use some certain kind of app. You're not allowed to use some certain kind of apps. That's part of remote access.
Hello, Jefferson.
Okay.
Okay, great. You're back.
My network. So as I was saying, if you look at some countries today, they had to place ban on some certain kind of applications from government officials using some certain kind of. Even in Russia today, they actually placed a ban on government officials making use of iPhones. These are remote access policy because what's the name? TikTok they believe it's controlled by China, which steals information, personal data, and sends back to China. And how is this done? It's not done physically, it's done remotely. So that's why every organization, government, even as an individual there, you need to have some of those policies. But as an individual, you may not actually draw up documentations, the other ways of protecting yourself, as I've spoken about. But every organization should have a minimum of this documented policies available. Thank you. And now I'm ready to take any questions if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much for that time, Jefferson. If you have any questions, please, you might want to type it in the comment section or just raise your hand so we could call on you too. Okay, I have a question here. Let me, from Olabode Emmanuel. The question says, in a situation whereby an attacker creates a clone of a site and the URL is physically correct in the sense that there is a letter change, we have several A's in the alphabet. How do we detect this? All right, any one of you, either you, Jefferson, or Mr. Adeyeye, could answer?
Yeah, I'll take that.
All right, thank you, Mr.
The key thing for those kind of is to make sure you verify the URL. And then to make sure that, it's not like an HTTP, it's an HTTPS, which attaches a certificate. So you cannot clone a certificate that you're using to connect. So as long as the certificate, which basically acts as a cookie, is secure when you go to your left side of you can verify the site on your browser. You just want to make sure that that is a secured certificate that you're connecting with. And that's how you can, bypass that kind of phishing attack, by making sure that the certificate is issued by the company you're trying to connect to.
All right, thank you very much for that response, Mr. Adeyeye. I hope that answers your question, Olabode Emmanuel. If it does, you could just maybe say yes, type yes in the comment section.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did.
All right, thank you. All right, that's great. Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions? Or perhaps you may want to add to what Mr. Adeyeye said, Jefferson?
Okay, in addition to what Mr. Adeyeye has said, concerning phishing, I think if it serves me correctly, sometimes when we receive email that doesn't seem that we feel skeptic about. In fact, generally, when you receive an email from any organization with a link attached to it, it's always advisable not to click the link if possible, and go to your normal browser and go to the original link which you know. If you do not know the original link, you could also always use Google search, because Google search most times will always bring out the according to their verification, how trusted they are. That's what you see first on Google. You will not see a clone phishing site appear first on your Google page. And sorry, most organizations have mitigation processes on this, like Facebook. Big organizations, they have bought domains so that in a situation where you make mistake, let's say you want to go to facebook.com and you wrote FaceBK or Facebook, instead of BOK, you wrote facebok.com, it automatically redirects you to the original Facebook site. These are some of the things that big organizations have done. And as a growing organization or a medium-sized organization, it's also advisable to do things like this so that it becomes difficult for an attacker to just clone your site or pick out an error in spelled alphabet to create a phishing site.
All right, thank you very much for that, Jefferson. Do we have any other questions? Comments? Okay, Florence, are you trying to speak? Ask a question. Okay, I assume that's not intentional. All right, in the absence of any other questions, would like to appreciate every one of us for taking time to join this webinar. We trust you've learned a couple of things that you would like to put into practice, both in your personal data security and your organizational security. The speakers are definitely available at any time if you want to. If you still have questions, maybe after now, you could always reach out to Jefferson, and of course, you get responses to your answers. We appreciate you for taking time. Thank you to all the speakers today, and we wish you a very good evening. Jefferson, I'll call on you again as the host if there's any other thing you want to add before we call it a night.
Okay, so I want to appreciate everybody for taking out the time. If you need this short presentation I made, I could send it to you. I also have another presentation on cybersecurity in general, which I think might be helpful. So if you